You mean to tell me God became a baby and was born in a sheep stable? The one posing the question sounded as though he honestly didn't know if the story he was hearing was a legend or the gospel truth. That he would be raised in a blue collar home, never write any books, hold any offices, be betrayed by his own people, and executed like a common thief, buried in a borrowed grave, and be called the Son of God? He paused a second. Doesn't that all sound absurd? The incarnation, absurd. Jesus on the cross, absurd. At the time, the man's question had taken my Sunday school Jesus down from the flannel board. Then it began to dawn on me. What God did makes sense. It makes sense that Jesus would be our sacrifice because the sacrifice was needed to justify man's presence before God. It makes sense that God would use the old law to tutor Israel on the need for grace. It makes sense that Jesus would be our high priest. What God did makes sense. However, why God did it is absolutely absurd. When one leaves the method and examines the motive, the carefully stacked blocks of logic tumble. That type of love isn't logical. It can't be neatly outlined in a sermon or explained on a term paper. Think about it. For thousands of years, using wit and charm, man has tried to be friends with God. And for thousands of years, he had let God down. He'd done the very thing he promised he'd never do. It was a fiasco. Even the holiest of heroes sometimes forgot whose side they were on. Some of the scenarios in the Bible look more like adventures of Sinbad, the sailor, than stories for vacation Bible school. Remember these characters? Aaron, the holy priest of God, leading the Israelites in fireside aerobics in front of the golden calf. David, the man after God's heart, getting his glasses steamed as a result of a bath on a roof. Adam, adorned in fig leaves and stained of forbidden fruit. Moses, throwing both a staff and a temper tantrum. King Saul looking into a crystal ball for the will of God, and Noah, drunk and naked, in his own tent. These are the chosen ones to carry out God's mission. It's easy to see the absurdity. Why didn't he give up? Why didn't he let the globe spin off its axis? Even after generations of people had spit in his face, he still loved them. After a nation of chosen ones had stripped him naked and ripped his incarnate flesh, he still died for them. And even today, after billions have chosen to prostitute themselves before the pimps of power, fame, and wealth, he still waits for them. It is inexplicable and yet very rationality that gives the gospel its greatest defense. For only God could love like that. The question forced me to see Jesus as I had never seen him. At first, I didn't recognize him, but it was he, the lion, the Judean lion. He was walking out from among the dense trees of theology and ritual and lie down in a brief clearing. In his paw was a wound, in his mane were the stains of blood, but there was a royalty about him that silenced even the breeze in the trees. Blood-stained royalty, a God with tears, a creator with a heart. God became earth's mockery to save his children. How absurd to think that such nobility would go to such poverty to share such a treasure with thankless souls, but he did. In fact, the only thing more absurd than the gift is our stubborn unwillingness to receive it.